Well, hey there. Welcome to Market of the Moment. I am Sharon Terhune, and I am joined here by Mr. Don Tchaikovsky.
That's me.
And what do we got going on here today, Don?
Well, here we are in March,
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
yeah. So, but today we're gonna spend some time visiting with Dan Noma,
Okay.
Venture REI, as well as Easy Street Offers and Real Estate Pro, and all the other things that Dan does.
Yep.
But we're gonna be checking in with him today, and we're gonna be talking about the institutional and the iBuyers, and so what's happening in that. I know we've got some stuff coming up in the future that we're
Yep.
going to be doing with Dan, some kind of educational stuff around that. But
Maybe
right
like
now,
a forecast of some sort.
right, like an iBuyer forecast, that would be cool, right?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we should probably work on putting something
We
like
should
that
think
together.
about it.
So okay, well then we're going to get to work on that. But in the meantime, we should probably check in with our conversation with Dan and see what he says is going on out there.
Sounds good. Hey, Dan, thanks so much for joining us today on Market of the Moment. We are always excited to have you as our guest.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah,
It has been a while.
We have so much to talk about today that I know we're gonna do a little bit today, and then we're gonna save a little bit for next week as well.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
hey, can you tell us about that amazing picture behind you before we get going?
Oh man, go
Yeah.
Devils, right?
Love
The
it.
Sun Devils. Yeah, I took my family to a Sun Devil game and had to snap a photo there. That's like my favorite spot in the world. So
I
why
love
not?
it.
Why
Yeah,
not?
excellent.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Your kids have more designer clothes than my 20
Yeah,
girls.
no,
Yeah.
They're pretty fancy. Pretty
Yeah.
fancy.
All the Sun Devil fancy.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Dan, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure that we kind of dive right into some insights that you've been seeing what's happening in the market. So, for those of you guys that don't know Dan well, Dan's always has his fingers on the pulse of what's happening with the institutional buyers, the iBuyers, and is always able to provide some great insight.
Yeah.
So, over the last several months, we've seen a significant slowdown in all of those areas. And here we are now in March, and we've heard some rumblings that things are going to be picking up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the institutional buyer, the guys that are buying these thousands of homes to go to rent, we saw that faucet, so to speak, kind of turn off at the beginning of the fourth quarter last year, right? It was the next jump in interest rates really kind of took us out of the market. And really, what we have to think about there is that their cost of capital, as interest rates, mortgage rates have increased, their cost of capital has increased as well. One is they're simply just like I said, their cost of borrowing power, right? So if they can only, if they're borrowing money at 6% and they can only get a 6% yield on any property that they're buying in the market, essentially they're just trading dollars. So, and you can do that in a market that's appreciating, but in a market that is potentially going down, that model doesn't work very well, right? So that's one big factor. The other factor that they really have been looking at is, is the value of homes going to decrease, right? So there's been a lot of question about that, and so because that still seems to be a question mark out there, right? No one can really predict what the future looks like. They're remaining themselves on the sidelines. They have a lot of dry powder, so I can tell you a lot of these groups are extremely well capitalized. They do feel like they're serving a market that's significantly underserved in single family for rent. So when they do turn back on, I think you're going to see them turn back on in a big way. So what we're hearing is, we're supposed to start, making acquisitions here again, March 15th with a couple of our buying groups. And, the way that they're doing it is kind of unique. Some of them are actually borrowing money from Asia where they can get money cheaper. And they can actually play a little bit of a currency exchange game too, and start to bring down that borrowing cost a little bit to start some more acquisitions. So we had a whole slew of reasons why, these groups started to pause. But the strategy itself still works, and I think you'll see them back in a big way coming here pretty quickly. We've already seen a couple of the groups start to buy again, right? So groups like Progress, we know, are back actively purchasing again. So it's all coming along. I think there was no one could have predicted of a hockey stick type approach to interest rate hikes, and that affected everybody across all channels. With iBuyer, groups like Open Door and OfferPad in the market, right? They've got nothing but bad press over the it seems like it's been a couple of years since we've had anything good to say about them. But I will tell you this, they're still alive, right? So you think about
Yep.
like a group like Open Door that everybody thinks like this next wave is going to kill them. One of the thesis that their leadership has come up with originally when they built the company was that the value of certainty would increase in a declining market or in a market that had some uncertainty in it. And I can tell you that they are seeing a significant amount of increase in requests for offers on their website. So that's a pretty good signal to tell us that there's a lot of consumers out there that are fishing for that offer, wondering like what my home might be worth if I were to happen to have to sell this property, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Open Door is in a good place in a capital position, right? They're losing money, but they lost a lot less money this last quarter that they reported. So instead of losing 400 million, they only lost a million this time, or 100 million this time. So
There you go.
you're going to
That's
start to see their offer prices tick up. We've actually noticed a significant increase in their offer price compared to what we would consider a market value today.
Mm-hmm.
So they really did retreat from the market quite a bit. But I think they're going to be coming back in a big way. So they've got us kind of scaling up our operations. We list a lot of their overflow assets only, and so we're starting to see some of those start to tick over again. So they are making a lot more offers out there. They're making a lot more offers closer to that asking price or closer to what they would consider market value. But what's wild is the amount of inquiries on their site is increased, almost 2.5 times over the second quarter of last year.
Wow,
So
that's
you're seeing
incredible.
a lot of consumers out there that are saying that they want to know what their property is worth.
Right.
So, whether they're using that as just like a estimate now, they're saying, okay, this is what my home is worth.
Right.
Or they're actually shopping, as time will tell. But I can
Right.
tell you that they're landing on these sites and entering their contact information. So, as an agent out there, the thing I think about is like, why are they capturing that customer and we're not? Right? Their message is just different, right? They're
Yeah.
saying, hey, I'll give you this certain offer, but we can do that too as agents. So, if you're thinking about lead generation for your own business, like that's a great place to start thinking about that, is giving customers some options there,
Mm-hmm.
and showing them what they could potentially do if they had to sell.
Stan, I do have a question because you mentioned obviously the crystal ball that's not working for any of us is, will the home prices go down or continue going up or stay where they're at?
Yeah.
Have they considered what that looks like for their buy box? Are they looking to make adjustments and buy higher, or because obviously, it's always stayed at a certain threshold in Arizona.
Yep.
Is
Yeah, as
that
far as the iBuyer goes, or the Open Door goes, I can tell you that they have not yet made any adjustments to the ceiling on the buy box. So, right now they're offering up to 750,000. So any homes that are in that 750 range, they're
Yeah.
still making offers on those properties. The challenge really has just been that their offer price hasn't been close to what market value could be, right?
right?
Then if you take your home to market, you were selling it in a couple days anyways, so it didn't really matter. Like that certainty or the value of the speed wasn't really an option. So some of the more challenging assets that you've got, maybe some assets that are sitting in the outliers that could take a little bit longer to sell, those might be really good opportunities for those guys to take off your hands for you, though.
Well, with the prices of houses and how much they escalated here, that's why I'm asking, because obviously, so many people have $1 million houses today that were 500,000 or
Right.
700,000, or whatever. So that's why I was just curious if that's going to be something that some of them will look at going into more of a luxury, would be considered maybe a luxury product.
Yeah, I've heard rumblings of that conversation, but I haven't seen anybody like solve the puzzle of the number of buyers wanting to buy in that price range, right? So it's that seesaw of like, what is the need of the market,
Yeah.
and how quickly can we offload these assets? So until we start to see probably a bunch of buyers jumping in that million plus range, not that there's not, but if there was more, then it would be quite a bit more interesting. So it boils down to affordability. They're really just fishing in that pond of where the most buyers are sitting,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And the highest level of inventory, the easiest to compare house to house,
Sure.
that managing through that. And then with these the REITs and the buy and holds, like again, those price ranges that we're seeing are usually still at that entry level, right? And which then potentially, so if you're a buyer right now, or if you're talking to a buyer right now, this is a reason to encourage them that there are opportunities to buy are better now than they would be once all these folks are turned back on.
Right.
Because if you wait till everybody's turned back on, then they're going to be looking to buy the same homes that your first time buyers are looking at.
Right.
Right. Yep. Yeah, definitely less competition in that space for sure right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only real difference with their buy boxes coming out this next go round is really just going to be in pricing, right? So they're going to be pricing the homes probably a little bit less than we were pricing when we were offering, in the say second quarter of last year, as a result of rental prices have decreased a little bit, right? So we have seen some retraction in rental pricing, and that's going to affect what their ability to offer on these homes is for sure.
Excellent. So, okay. Well, Dan, I know, so we're going to wrap up on this for now, but you have a new buyer coming to the market, and we're going to come back next week, and you're going to kind of fill us in on this, something that's going to be very appealing to those investors, the investors that might want to decrease some of their inventory. So, so we're looking forward to that, and we'll see you back next week.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan, thank you so much. As always a wealth of information. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to getting back with you next week to hear more about that different kind of investment strategy that you've got that you're going to be introducing us to.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you. How about we move it over to Market Master Mindy, Miss Mindy Jones, and let's hear what is going on with market.
Hey guys, we're back with your market update, and while we don't have the final February numbers yet, we certainly have confidence that there are a lot of changes in our real estate market that you're going to want to pay attention to. Let's start with average list to sales price. This is the comparison between what homes are listed for and what they actually sell for. The monthly average dollar per square foot on closed listings has been trending up since mid-January. As supply continues to move downwards, we can expect this trend to continue as sellers have less of a need to negotiate with greater competition, and comparables are finally starting to stabilize, which means pricing strategies are getting more consistent with current market trends. Next, let's take a look at the listing success rate. This measures how many houses that are listed actually sell. Well, after a brief dip over the holidays where we had higher numbers of cancellations and expired listings due to sellers not achieving their desired financial outcomes, we've now soared above the long-term average at around 72%, which is an indication of our building pace. And finally, let's look at the number one factor keeping our market tight, and that's the inventory level. Available homes for sale continues to drop as sellers hang on to their low interest rates, leaving many people moving to the valley for jobs or buyers trying to get into the market competing for what's out there. We've dropped another 8% in active listings in just the last month alone, which means we've got nearly 1,500 less homes on the market today. This is the number one reason that buyers are feeling a sense of urgency in spite of fluctuating interest rates to get into their next home. You'll have to tune in next week when we share those final February numbers, but we'll be looking for pricing predictions, the rate of new listings coming to the market, and how we're looking at pricing year over year. So until next time.
Mindy, thank you so much. We appreciate all the information you share every week. And now it is time to check in with Miss Amber Kovarik at Guild Mortgage.
Hey, Amber Kovarik here with a 60-second mortgage market update. So as you've probably seen, interest rates have been on the rise. So where are they headed and why did they go up? It was on February 3rd that we had a blockbuster employment report which showed 517,000 jobs created. But if you really dig into it, that was a seasonal adjustment, not real job creation. In that same report, we saw the employment rate go down instead of go up. But again, that was due to an adjustment called the population control adjustment, which essentially said that they found jobs from 2022 that weren't allocated, and instead of putting them back in 2022, they decided to do a lump sum adjustment in January of 23, call it a phantom gain, and account for 810,000 jobs. So the unemployment rate went down when it really should have gone up. So those things drove up interest rates, and now we're still anticipating, beginning on May 10th, an improvement in the interest rate market and hopefully some relief before then. On March 10th, we have another jobs number, which should be coming in friendlier for the bond market. And on March 14th, we have another inflation report, which we should see the downward trend again being friendlier for interest rates. So still expect a rocky ride, lots of volatility up and down, But through the summer months, we should see a much better picture for interest rates. So remind our clients that we want to buy now before the interest rates go down and the demand picks up. Hope that helps.
Well, Amber, thank you so much again for always being here for us and giving us the latest and greatest going on in the finance world. And I love how no matter what's going on in the market, you always have strategies and ideas around the home buying experience.
Absolutely.
And so thank you so much. Well, Don, we are out of time today on Market of the Moment.
What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? Next week, we have Dan
Yes.
coming back again.
Absolutely. We're
Yeah.
looking forward to it. He's going to be bringing us
Yeah.
some new information on some strategies for current real estate investors
Yep.
and ways of continuing their investment strategies without all the labor of being a landlord. So,
Well, we're getting
yeah.
Dan back here again
Yep,
with us, guys.
absolutely.
Thanks. Ciao.